This is the AO1 for Duress of threats. It's a very popular question and it's good because it's structured and you can just follow a set formula in order to answer questions. So the first thing I would just mention is that it's a full defence. This leads to an acquittal and the burden of proof is on the prosecution to prove that D did not act under duress. AG Whelan sets out the defence and it says that the defendant is forced to commit a crime or face death or serious injury, and these are threats that overbear the ordinary powers of human resistance. The next point is, who is the threat to? Well, the threat has to be to the defendant or others. The case of Wright says that others means people close to the defendant, so close friends and family. And just be aware that the defence is not available if somebody threatens your property or animals. The next issue, it has to be a serious threat. Well, what does this mean? Well, Valderrama Vega says this means a threat of death or serious injury. By itself, threatening to expose a secret is not enough. However, you can take into account the cumulative effect of threats. So if you had a threat to disclose a criminal conviction, as long as there's a threat of death and serious injury in there, then that can be a serious threat. The third question to answer is there a connection between the threat and the crime? The case of Cole says there must be a connection, a nexus. So the person who makes the threat has to tell you what crime to do, so they have to nominate the crime. Okay, the fourth point to consider, is it immediate? Well, what does immediate mean? Abdul Hussein said immediate means imminent. The case of Hassan says if the defendant has time to go to the police, then they must do so. The next issue is the Graham test. Now, this is a two-stage test. The first part is subjective. Both parts have to be proved. So the subjective part, did the defendant act because they feared death or serious injury if they didn't? Then the objective part, would a sober person of reasonable firmness with the defendant's characteristics have acted in the same way? The case of Bowen tries to clarify what is meant by characteristics. So first of all, low IQ and being timid are not relevant characteristics. However, things such as mental and physical disabilities, age, pregnancy, gender are relevant characteristics. So a very old person or a very young person is likely to be more susceptible to threats. The next issue is, are there any limitations to the defence? Now, duress of threats is not a defence to murder. That's the case of Howe. It is also not a defence to attempted murder, which is the case of Gotts. And then finally, if the defendant,